Do you know that feeling of silence when you walk into a house where trust has just died? It's not peaceful, it's heavy. It's a physical weight that presses on your eardrums and makes the air thick and hard to breathe. I lived in that silence for 3 long months. I smiled, I poured the wine, and I played the part of the doting husband. But all the while, I was sharpening the knife that would cut the cancer out of my life. My name is Ryan. I'm a structural engineer. My job is to find the weak points in buildings, the hidden cracks in the foundation, and fix them before everything comes crashing down. I'm good at what I do. I see the tiny fractures that everyone else misses. But for 5 years, I was completely blind to the fault lines running right through the middle of my own marriage. I was married to Chloe. She was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into a vibrant, charismatic. She could charm a statue. We met back in college, struggled through our 20s, side by side, and when my engineering firm finally took off and the money started rolling in, I honestly thought we had made it. I wanted to give her the world, and I tried. A beautiful house in the hills, a brand new Range Rover, vacations with a blank check. I didn't mind. I loved spoiling her. My inner circle was small. My best friend, my only real friend, was a guy named Alec. We'd known each other since we were 5 years old, building forts in his backyard. He was my lawyer, my confidant, the brother I never had. When Chloe and I fought, I called Alec. When I needed to restructure my company's assets, I trusted Alec with every detail. He was going to be the godfather to our future kids. Or so I thought. The entire illusion of my life shattered on a Thursday. I'd come home early from work to surprise Chloe with tickets to Paris for our anniversary. Her car was in the driveway, but the house had that heavy silence I told you about. I walked into the kitchen and saw her phone lying on the counter. It buzzed. Now, I'm not a snooper. I believe in privacy. But the name on the screen wasn't a name. It was just a single emoji, a snake. Curiosity is a powerful, dangerous thing. I picked up the phone. It was locked, of course, but I knew her passcode. It was my birthday. The text message read, "He's talking about Paris again. I can't do a whole week alone with him. It's exhausting, pretending to care." My stomach felt like it dropped through the floor. I started scrolling up. The conversation went back for months. Explicit photos, secret plans for meets, vicious jokes about how gullible I was. They made fun of my work, my habits, the way I showed my love for her. My hands were shaking when I clicked on the contact info to see who this snake was. The number looked familiar. My blood ran cold. It was Alec. The room started spinning. I had to grip the granite countertop just to keep myself from collapsing. My wife and my best friend, the 2 people in the world I would have taken a bullet for, were the ones standing behind me, pulling the trigger. I didn't confront her. The old Ryan would have. He would have yelled, screamed, thrown things, demanded answers. But the engineer in me took over. I was looking at a catastrophic structural failure. You don't scream at a collapsing building. You evacuate, and then you bring in the demolition crew. I placed her phone back on the counter, exactly where I found it. 5 minutes later, Chloe walked in from the backyard, all smiles. I smiled back. I kissed her cheek. I handed her the tickets to Paris. "Oh my God, Ryan," she squealed, throwing her arms around me. "You're the best husband ever." "I try," I said, my voice eerily steady. "I just want you to be happy." Inside, I felt nothing. The love and warmth in my heart had been replaced by something cold, hard, and calculating, and that coldness was useful. It was the beginning of what I called Operation Scorched Earth. For the next 3 months, I became an actor. I knew that if I filed for divorce right away, Alec would represent her. He was my lawyer. He knew every financial secret I had, my accounts, my offshore holdings, my trusts. Together, they would bleed me dry. I couldn't just divorce them. I had to take them both out, simultaneously and permanently. First, I hired a private investigator, a forensic digital expert. I needed more than just text messages. I needed real leverage. I needed to know if Alec had breached his duties as my lawyer. It turned out to be so much worse than I imagined. Alec had a secret, a massive gambling problem. The investigator discovered he'd been skimming money from the retainer accounts of his clients, including me to cover his debts. It was subtle, just small amounts over several years, but it added up to nearly $200,000. That wasn't just unethical. It was grand larceny. It was enough to get him disbarred. It was enough to send him to prison. Next, I looked into Chloe. I focused on her charity work. She was the treasurer for a local animal shelter, something she was very proud of. I got a hold of the books and audited them myself, line by line. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was funneling money from the shelter money meant for stray animals into a secret bank account. And where did that money go? It went to pay for fancy hotel rooms and expensive gifts for Alec. She was literally stealing from puppies to fund her affair. I had them. I had the nuclear codes, but I didn't want to just win in court. That wasn't enough. I wanted to humiliate them. I wanted to destroy their reputations so completely that they'd have to move to a different continent just to get a job. I chose the perfect execution date, my birthday dinner. One rented out the private room at the most expensive steakhouse in the city, and I invited everyone, my parents, Chloe's parents, who absolutely adored me, all of our mutual friends, and of course, the guests of honor, Chloe and Alec. Chloe looked incredible in a new red dress I'd bought her for the occasion. Alec was there, clapping me on the back, pouring me a glass of expensive scotch. To Ryan, Alec toasted, raising his glass high. To the man who has it all, the whole room cheered. To Ryan, I stood up, holding my own glass. I looked slowly around the table, at all the smiling faces, all the lies. Thank you, everyone, I began. I really do feel like I have it all. But lately, I've been thinking about the concept of loyalty. It's a rare thing, isn't it? The room went quiet. I glanced at Chloe. Her smile looked a little tight. I have a special presentation for you all tonight, I announced. A little look back at the last year. I signaled the waiter, who lowered a large projector screen. I thought we were looking at vacation photos, Chloe whispered, her hand touching my arm. I pulled my arm away. Not exactly, I said. The first image appeared on the screen. It wasn't a photo. It was a bank statement. Using a laser pointer, I said, "This, ladies and gentlemen, is the financial record of the Paws and Claws Animal Shelter. And this highlighted column shows transfers to an account under the name C. Miller." Chloe froze. Her parents stared at the screen, completely confused. "Chloe," I said, my voice still pleasant, "would you like to explain why $15,000 of charity money went into a personal slush fund?" "Ryan, what are you doing?" she hissed under her breath. "Stop this." "Oh, but I'm just getting started," I said, and I clicked the remote. The next slide was a credit card statement. The dates matched the withdrawals from the slush fund. The charges were for stays at the Ritz-Carlton, purchases from luxury lingerie stores, and a watch. A very specific Rolex. I turned my head and looked directly at Alec. "Nice watch, Alec. Did you enjoy it?" Alec went pale as a ghost. He started to stand up. "Ryan, you're drunk. We're leaving. Sit down," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the silence like a razor. It was terrifying. "I haven't gotten to your part yet." I clicked the remote again. A long series of text messages filled the screen. The explicit ones, the ones where they mocked my parents, the ones where they laid out their plan to milk me for everything before finally leaving me. Gasps filled the room. "Alec," I said, now addressing the entire table, "my best friend, my lawyer, the man who is supposed to protect my interests. Well, it turns out the only interests Alec has been protecting are his own, by stealing $42,000 from my escrow account." And with a final click, I put the full forensic accounting report on the screen for everyone to see. The silence that followed wasn't just heavy. It was the sound of 2 lives and 2 reputations collapsing into ruin.
"This is embezzlement, Alec," I said. "And since you use the interstate banking system to do it, it's federal wire fraud." The silence in the room was absolute. Chloe's mother was sobbing quietly. My father was staring at Alec with a look that promised violence. "I filed the police reports this morning," I said, taking a sip of my scotch. "For both of you. Chloe for fraud and embezzlement from a nonprofit. Alec for grand larceny and breach of fiduciary duty." "Ryan, please," Chloe wailed, finally breaking. She fell to her knees, grabbing my hand. "I'm sorry. It was a mistake. We can fix this." "Get off me," I said, shaking her off like she was dirt. "And Alec?" "I sent everything to the State Bar Association an hour ago. You won't be a lawyer by Monday." I looked at the table of stunned guests. The dinner is paid for. Enjoy the steak. I'm leaving. I walked out of the restaurant. I didn't look back. I heard Chloe screaming my name, but it sounded like it was coming from underwater. I got into my car, drove to a hotel, and slept for 12 hours. It was the best sleep of my life. The aftermath was brutal, but not for me. The divorce was swift. Because of the criminal charges pending against her, Chloe had no leverage. The prenup held firm. Alec had reviewed it years ago, ironically thinking he was protecting me, never realizing he'd be the one trying to break it. She got nothing. Actually, less than nothing. She had to use her savings to pay back the animal shelter to avoid jail time. She's currently living in a studio apartment, working retail. Her social circle evaporated. Nobody wants to be friends with the woman who stole from puppies. Alec got it worse. The Bar Association doesn't play around with client funds. He was disbarred immediately. His firm fired him and sued him for damages. He was prosecuted for the theft. He took a plea deal to avoid prison, but he's a felon now. He works at a car wash. I saw him once, wiping down tires. I didn't feel pity. I felt justice. It's been a year since that dinner. I sold the house. It had too many memories. I bought a loft in the city, something industrial and modern. I started traveling. I went to Paris alone, and it was magnificent. I met a woman there, an artist named Elena. She's kind. She's honest. We're taking it slow. I still have trust issues. I probably always will. You don't walk away from a demolition without some dust in your lungs. But I learned something valuable. I learned that I am not just a provider. I am not just a wallet or a safety net. I am a man who commands respect, and if you can't give it to me, you don't get a seat at my table. Sometimes, late at night, I look at the old photos. I see the smiles on Chloe and Alec's faces, and I realize they were never smiling at me. They were smiling at what they could take from me, but they forgot one thing. I'm an engineer. I know how to build things up, but I also know exactly where to place the dynamite to bring the whole thing down. And watching them fall, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever built. T.L. Doctor. My wife cheated with my best friend, who was also my lawyer. They mocked me and stole money from me and a charity. I gathered forensic evidence of their fraud and embezzlement, exposed them at a dinner party in front of our families, and had them both criminally charged. They lost their careers and freedom. I kept my fortune and my dignity. The end.